I'm going to begin with domain 3. And so remember, I told you domain 3 was in our PPR standards, standard 1, standard 3, and technology application standards 1 through 7. That is the responsibility of all teachers in Texas to know and understand that. So here it shows you exactly what I've just said. And that's why it's so challenging, because it does have a lot. And it makes up a large portion. The larger portion is standard 1, who makes another appearance here because that's how important it is. And part of standard 1 is knowing your students and knowing what particular things to help them when you're planning, how to use that knowledge of them and the diversity that you'll have in your classroom to plan effective instruction for everyone, where everyone's supported and everyone can thrive. So standard 3 of the PPR makes its way into domain 3, and technology applications 1 through 7, right? Making up 33%. Just with these two, it's a huge, huge chunk. So understanding standard 1 is so very important. What we were just talking about right now about getting to know your students, utilizing their interests, utilizing real world connections to real world or connections to their life, validation of their culture, the different cultural nuances that they might exist in, very, very important. Cannot be overstated the importance of standard 1, because look at how much it comes in. Domain 3 has to share its space. So here's the breakdown here. Excuse me. Okay, let's take a look at this where it shows you how to read this, because I don't think that I have explained this. So we talked about the domains, right? The domains are sort of the remixing up of the information within the standard, right? Because some of the domains have more than one document standard. For instance, domain 3, it's not just one standard, it's 2 standards from the PPR document and 7 from technology application. And so it's like synthesized into a domain. It takes these standards, become the domains and the competencies. The way we read these is you have the competency statement, and that's very broad about what you should know and be able to do broadly. The descriptive statement is the specifics. What particular skill is going to be testable? What knowledge, concept, or skill is going to be eligible for testing? It is up for grabs. So anything, this is broadly, you need to know this. So as you read a question, you should be able to say, oh, this is competency 1, because it's about students, planning instruction, understanding human development and planning instruction that motivates students and that is specific to their particular needs. Knowing the human developmental process, applying that to your instruction and assessment in a way that motivates them, knowing what motivates them in the elementary, EC through 6 levels, knowing what motivates them in the 4 through 8 levels, that middle area. The state separates those content areas and the schools for a particular reason, because theoretically, in theory, learning theory, we know scientifically, there are particular needs of students at different stages of cognitive development, social development, physical, emotional development. And so you have the particulars, and this is up for grabs, is the stages, the typical stages of cognitive, social, physical, emotional development. This is in domain 3 as well. We've already reviewed this, and I have reviewed many of it, in my videos, standard 1 so many times. And so another resource for you here, especially for this portion with, standard 1, domain 1, Piaget's cognitive development. This is the theory that they are referring to that is up for grabs. Now, they're not going to ask you what is Piaget's cognitive theory of development for an 8-year-old? No. They're going to say Miss Sauceda's second grade class, and you should know second grade is 8th grade. So they're going to be at either here and here. Actually, no, they're not going to be there. They're going to be at concrete operational. Begin to consider other viewpoints, to see other perspectives and not be so egocentric with their ideas and lens. So they're never, so because of that, we would plan for activities to get them to, see other viewpoints. And we also know that they are concrete thinkers. They apply logical thought concretely. If they see it, then it makes sense. So we know that that group, that age group, needs to be taught in a particular way, that they see things, that they experience things, so that they are able to acquire a knowledge base. They aren't yet at the cognitive level where they can abstract. They don't have enough neurological pathways or enough experience. And so we have to provide direct instruction. For instance, if you're showing them, life cycle of a plant, where they don't just read about it or watch a video of it, but actually plant, stick their finger into the dirt and pour put the seed in there, cover it with dirt and add, the right amount of water, and then observe and note the different stages. That is and resonates with their brain at their cognitive level of development. And so we plan based on where they're at. How does their brain work? How does where is their physical development? Where is their maturation? Morally, psychosocial, and it matters. We plan for differences. We have to help students satisfy needs so that learning can occur. If a student is hungry, they cannot learn. They cannot. So many of us in the teaching profession used to sign off when breakfast was served that everybody ate so we could keep the extra. They were just going to throw it away. Technically, it's against the law, but students didn't have snacks. And many of our kids at the time, I was getting them from not Las Milpas. Oh my God, I can't think of it. Colonia was one of the neighborhoods, and we had a lot of kids that didn't eat breakfast, didn't have time, or for whatever reason were still hungry if they did eat breakfast. And I want them to be full. I want them to sit there absolutely full. And so as a young teacher and early on, I sort of did things in opposition to like what some of my older teachers did. Like, for instance, students could eat in my class. If we're in 3rd period and you're hungry and lunch is until 5th period, like you can't write an essay or like analyze poetry on a hungry brain. You just can't. So it's either I give you a snack that I kept, for this very particular moment and let you eat it and teach you to throw away your trash and to clean up any spills and messes, or just say absolutely no eating in my classroom because you guys leave trash and make or messes, and I'm not going to clean up after you. First of all, this is like a self-defeating approach, right? I want the student to do well. I already know based on science that if a student is hungry, if they lack food, water, shelter, warmth, security, if their parent got upset with them in the beginning of the day or they're being abused, they can't learn. They cannot. Their brain goes down fight or flight syndrome. So I pick your battles and make wise decisions, always in the benefit of your student, always for the student to be in a better place. Like, I'm not going to let a student sit there and be hungry, even if I have to go, buy snacks myself. And all of it was like dry cereal and stuff. So it was just easy for them to eat a snack and get a little bit of a brain boost until they could go have another meal. But you did have teachers still to this day who are just like, no, absolutely not. And you get hungry if you haven't eaten all day long. I mean, if you think about it, if you're at home, you're constantly snacking and we just want our students to be on their A game. That's not to say that they have to be eating all the time, but I don't personally see a problem. And I know that actually I'm helping them be in a better place to learn. Okay. If they're eating, they're not, their brain is not hungry. They're not thinking about how they're hungry. They're not thinking about wanting to distract someone because they're uncomfortable, because they're hungry. Like, they're just not. They're in a better place overall for instruction to take place. And that's just something that I learned, over the years teaching. So please look at this. Obviously, diversity is a much larger area. This was a long time ago. And technology, look how small the technology section is. This is what it used to be in like 2008. I think that I got this copy in 2012. But by that time when I got it, it was already like, it looked just like this. I got a paper Xerox copy from one of my students that I was supervising. She said, I'm using this. Is it good? I said, actually, it is pretty good. And I said, can I make a copy? And I went in and made a copy. And then I tried to get a hold of Dynanotes because I am an ethical teacher. And I didn't want to just like give this away to my students. I wanted for Teacher Builder to purchase them so that they could, have permission to use this stuff, copyright infringement and all that jazz. We contacted them, Miss Garza and I, and tried to get a pricing. And they, what they told me? That TEA actually stopped them from printing this particular tool. Like, they got them pulled, like they're not allowed to print this. They couldn't sell it, Dynanotes, and so it was no longer available even for purchase. And so therefore I was able to give it to my students for free with no qualms. It's not even a thing anymore. Maybe TEA would be upset with you guys having it. Things have changed. Obviously, this is very old. Like I said, technology wise, there's 8 standards that from a whole content area that you have to learn. So it's not just this spreadsheets, word processing, online tools. And you have to understand audiovisual videotapes, overhead projector, graphing calculators. There's so much more audiovisual, like just so much more. And so making sure that you don't just look at this, that you really go take a deep dive in those technology standards. They're right here. We have to collaborate and communicate locally, globally using tools and resources. So taking them on, like, if you're a social studies teacher, man, social studies teachers today, and when I started teaching, you have so many cool visuals, museums, historical sites, and societies to integrate, to sort of show them and illustrate to them ideas and people and concepts and events, where, and so too in English language arts and reading. Oh my God, like, just with being able to show them visuals for vocabulary, it's so much more now. Like, when I started teaching in 2003, 2004, I used an actual like glass overhead. Like, I had sheets, and I had like vis-a-vis, or sometimes like wax pencils. I prefer vis-a-vis because wax was a little bit more difficult to clean off, but that's how I started. So I had to draw, like, if I was going to do a Frayer model with vocabulary, I had to draw what I wanted there, because there was no overhead projector. There wasn't an internet that I could go look up a visual. I mean, I could show them in a book for sure, and put it up on the screen, but not in the way that we have now. I can now craft and frame my lesson from the very beginning in this very cool way, kind of almost like a book trailer, if you will, where they learn about what we're going to learn about, and the conflicts and the academic language and some visuals. Like, you could really do a lot. And you should do a lot. In order to do that, you have to be sort of well-informed. You got to talk to people. I feel like now that I'm out of the classroom, personally, I am less knowledgeable than where I was when I left the classroom, because I was constantly, like, someone would say, oh, I'm using this app and it's amazing. And we're always looking for ways in which to make our lives easier and to enrich the information and the activities in class. And so that collaboration and communication with your peers is really important, because they're your best resource. The other teachers on your campus, the technology guy on your campus is going to be a good resource. acquire, analyze, and manage content from digital resources. So acquiring, you have to use digital content and get your students to know how to acquire, how to analyze, how they manage and utilize these digital resources responsibly and ethically. Making informed decisions, applying critical thinking, promote safe, responsible, legal, and ethical behavior while using technology tools and resources. And that safe, making sure that they're in an intranet, that they're not out on, going to weird websites and talking to people outside of that closed network, that they understand they have a responsibility, and that there's legal and ethical requirements in order to be able to participate as a global citizen, right? As someone a digital citizen, someone who uses the internet. And I think that's an important thing to sort of pose with your students, that it's sort of overlooked because it happened, the growth of the internet so quickly. The idea that it is a space, right? Like people exist in it for hours on TikTok, on Facebook, reading articles in chat rooms back in the day. So it's a place where people exist and behave and act, right? They can write, they can post, they can repost, they can respond, click down, click mad face, give a message. And so we have a responsibility legally. I mean, you can't go around threatening people on Facebook. I will hurt you. I mean, you're going to have some police that show up on your door, because even though you just said it in this non-existent place, it is a place and words carry meaning. And so just having that conversation that being a digital citizen comes with certain responsibility. We have that same conversation in all science classes, right? Every single student, because they're going to be dealing with chemicals and experiments and working with other people and being scientists, that they have a responsibility as a member of the scientific community to be responsible for their actions and to sort of behave in a way that is becoming of a scientist when handling specimens, when working with other people, when going to new, instructional environments, like you're taking them out to the creek, promoting safe responsible behavior, even in a digital sense, and understanding technology concepts, systems, and operations, like what sort of things are output devices, what sort of things are input devices. All of that in domain 3. And we're going to go to domain 3 quickly and take a look at the overview and then the specifics. And I'm going to take out my handy dandy notebook. I need to watch that. Oh man, I should have watched that. I've been looking for a video that helps me use this better, but like I told you, I feel like I'm behind the game because I'm sort of isolated now and not in a school full. I mean, I still get good ideas from teachers when I go visit campuses, but certainly not enough. Domain 3. We're going to do a deep dive. I'm going to dig deep. Window, and I am going to do left screen here, and I am going to do right screen here. Cool beans. So whenever you are doing a deep dive, you should be analyzing your texts, sort of paraphrasing things, jotting down notes, possibly adding visuals if you can. And I don't know how to use this just yet, but apparently I can put pictures and I can make this a very workable living type document with my paraphrasing of the specifics. And I want for you to know the competency so well that when you see the scenario, you're like, oh yeah, this is domain 7 for sure. Like this is about communicating effectively. So if they talk about communication, speaking, discussions, oral language, any of that, you should say, oh, they're talking about communication and how to effectively apply it in varied teaching and learning contexts. So and then you could even get into the specifics. I'm going to pause really quickly and run and get a water because I need one so bad.